Hey guys, welcome into this new channel I'm going to start running. I'm going to do it as kind of a side project to start, but then I do want to start doing this as a live vlog, probably once a week. Guys, the political fronts that we see going on in Western society, particularly American society, which is what I'm going to deal with more or less, there's a lot of subjective nonsense going on in it. There's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of people that want to mislead you into believing things that are just simply not true, as if they are true. Or to quote Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it really doesn't matter if you're right as long as you're morally right. Well, there's problems with that. Being factually right and morally right are not separable. You cannot be one without the other, because without the moral authority to be factually correct, being factually correct gives you the moral authority to be morally correct. So you can't be morally correct while being factually incorrect. It doesn't happen. And these videos that I'm going to do, they're going to cover a lot of those kind of grounds on why these things are important. And I'm going to start today with something that kind of bugs the crap out of me, because I'm seeing a lot of it with the new Title IX rules, regulations coming out of the Department of Education. We're hoping to see them in the next couple of months. I'm thinking June-ish will probably be when they're finalized. Typically take about 6 months to finalize. So June-ish, July-ish, somewhere in that area, because they finalized the rules on January 28th. So, or they closed comments and notice. So, guys, this is a big issue for me. And the issue is, why does Title IX need objective truth? Why do these procedures and why does the conversation need objective truth? Well, first things first, we have to define what we talk about when we talk about objective truth. There's objective and subjective truth. Objective truth is the truth that really is what is going on. Objective truth can be right or wrong, but it's still objectively observable. For example, I can say insulin is needed to combat certain forms of diabetes. That is an objective truth. We know that from medical science, certain types of diabetes, certain sufferers need insulin to survive. Okay, handle that. It can also be false, but it's still objectively observable. 5 plus 4 does not equal 10. No matter how much people may want it to. No matter how much they may want it to be, oh, I don't really like that it equals 10. I want it to equal, or equals 9. I want it to equal 10. It doesn't matter. It's objectively observable to equal 9. So objective reality, objective truth is that there are objective and observable truths, things that are very confirmable. Subjective truth, which is where a lot of these people live in, is that feelings supersede your abilities to do things. For example, I live in the subjective truth world that says I have to believe all survivors because they're women. Well, no, you don't, because objective truth tells us that there are false claims, there are reasons that people lie, there are reasons that people do things that they shouldn't do all the time, not just on college campus, just in general. So it becomes subjective truth because your emotional appeal is to believe the woman when she claims she's been sexually assaulted. There's nothing wrong with believing people when they claim things, but you should also understand that the subjectiveness of that claim only becomes objective when there's evidence to prove it. It doesn't become objective because you feel like the woman was sexually assaulted. It doesn't become objective because you believe the false statistics put out by feminists. It becomes objective when there's actual presentable evidence against the statements. So that's where we're starting. Objective truth versus subjective truth, those are the differences. Subjective truth is emotional appeal based solely on how I feel about everything going on around us. I try to fit the facts around my subjective feelings about the answer. Chocolate ice cream is the best. Well, you can't tell me chocolate ice cream is not the best, because subjectively, chocolate ice cream is the best, even though you like vanilla more. Doesn't matter if you like vanilla more. I think chocolate ice cream is the best, therefore it's true. That's subjective. And when we talk about this issue, it's also important to understand the difference between subjective and objective morals, because this is where their complaints and their issues start to fall apart. When you talk about a subjective reality, You talk about a group of people who allow their emotions to say, what I feel is true is more important. He was coming back and forth between Germany and the US for a lawsuit. Because she got mad at him because he was not sexually interested in her anymore. That's provable at this point, by the way. There's a lot of evidence. You can go look at the amended complaint and read the exhibits if you got access to them. You will see what I'm talking about. She subjectively felt like being rejected made her a rape victim. Therefore, it was true. No, it didn't, because objectively, he did nothing to her. There was too much evidence that said she was lying through her fucking teeth. Let's just be honest. Apologize for any language that gets out of control, because some of this makes me very upset. Guys, this is where it breaks down. They believe that their subjective feelings on a matter make them morally superior. Well, I believe 1 in 5 women are raped on college campuses. Therefore, you have to amend all your policies to my feelings. No, I don't, because can you provide evidence? So just as record keeping, if I were to say to you right now, if I were to tell you this number, you wouldn't believe me, but 1 in 5 women puts college campuses on par with the Congo for sheer probability of rape. Most people will not believe that number. You know what they do in the Congo, right? Let's go ahead and break that down. The Congo, they use rape as a weapon of war. 22% of women in the Congo, and these are rough estimates because it could be higher than this, but they guesstimate this based on people that they've rescued and other things. 22% of people in the Congo, women in the Congo, are victims of some form of sexual assault, often rape. 22%. You are telling me that we are sending millions of girls often between the ages of 18 and 22, sometimes a little older, sometimes a little younger, sometimes a lot older, but for the most part, 18 to 22. We are sending these girls to an institution that has a crime rate that is institutionally higher than a place where they use rape to control people. Objective truth, the objective moral value, says that is nowhere near the case. To have a rape rate of 20%, the college campus would have to be more dangerous than Detroit. Detroit is one of the world's most dangerous cities, not just US, the world, per capita crime. We are not talking about criminal activity on a level that says, oh, well, there might be a rape or two. The Bureau of Justice Studies, which is a DOJ arm, has done its own study. It ended in 2013, and it studied from 2000 to 2010. So 10 years on almost every major campus in the United States. It found that the real rate of sexual assault and rape on campus is 6 in 1,000, 0.06%, less than 1%. That doesn't mean that any rape is acceptable. We're not going to get into that crap because that's not the point of the argument. 6 in 1,000, not 1 in 20. And that's from our federal government that while that study was going on, mind you, and being written in 2012, we had the vice president, the president, the head of the FBI, the head of the DOJ, all going out and saying, women are being raped at 20%. Bull. They knew it was false because they had this report in hand. They knew those numbers were lies. They were using it as a wedge issue, which I'll do a whole video on wedge issues because they drive me nuts. So we have an entire country right now being subjected to ridiculous standards of sexual behavior because of subjective feelings. Objective truth and objective moral values matter more in this conversation because you have to base policy on objective reality. I can't say I'm not, by the way, guys, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying I believe 1 in 6 women were raped on campus. I'm telling you, even if the number of 1 in 6 is off, it would have to be off by 244 in 1,000 to be 25%. I cannot tell you what the I can't tell you statistical probabilities on that. I don't know anyone who really can. the statistical chances of a rape on campus in the extreme. Virtually impossible. Anything can be probable from a mathematical standpoint, but some of them are so infinitesimal that they are virtually impossible. And that is one of them. Okay, so these are not statistics. These are not me saying, well, I think this is, I'm telling you, this is not happening. 1 in 5 women are not being raped on college campuses. Let's stop pretending like that's what's going on. Okay. Yay. Okay. We settled that. Okay. Second, objective truth. And this is why you have to be willing to accept objective truth. The tortured language used to describe sexual assault and sexual violence on campus is so broad as to encompass almost any behavior. That is not objective reality. Sexual assault should be, and is in most cases, and everywhere but college campuses, is defined very narrowly by criminal codes conduct. Even in tort law, it is defined by the criminal code. So if I bypass statute of limitations on a rape, say I've raped somebody, God forbid, no, I'd never do that, and someone wanted to get money out of me because I'd raped them and then statute of limitations had passed. The civil code in most states, if not all, requires you as the plaintiff to prove that I actually committed an act that would fall under the criminal code definition of sexual assault, sexual abuse, or sexual violence in some form, and up to and including rape. It can include digital penetration. It includes penetration by foreign objects. It includes molestation. It can include a lot of crimes, but these are most common ones. It can include sex by coercion, which is a version of rape, by the way. These are all things, but all those kind of crimes are what you'd have to prove. I can walk onto campus and be accused of grinding against a girl that didn't want me to grind against her, and that's sexual assault. That is not sexual assault in any understandable definition of the term. Sexual assault is a very serious issue, and it's a very serious crime. I don't think there's any statute that I can think of that I've seen in which sexual assault is treated as anything less than a felony. Serious sexual assault. There are versions of sexual assault that can be misdemeanor sexual assault. For example, kissing a girl against her will. Yeah, you can get some, that's typically not even considered sexual assault. That's considered battery, which can be misdemeanor. But there are ways to get to sexual assaults lower down to misdemeanor categories. But I've never seen the kind of things that men are being accused of on campus being used as a misdemeanor. They are actual felonies. Particularly digital penetration is a felony. Coercive sex is a felony. Molestation is a felony. False imprisonment is a felony. Rape by forced penetration is a felony. Forced penetration by a foreign object is a felony. All of these things are felonies. So don't try to tell me, well, subjectively, this is what rape is. No. You need to go look at the criminal code and understand what the criminal code actually says. It doesn't say that's rape. It doesn't say it's rape because you went and got drunk and had sex with somebody you didn't want to have sex with, woke up and your roommate tells you it's rape. That is not rape, unfortunately. That is another thing that needs to be discussed right here. You do not get to subjectively determine when you're incapacitated, and neither does a school. There are very clear-cut rules in every state for incapacitation. They vary from state to state. The federal government also has rules for incapacitation for purposes of rapes committed in interstate crime. So if, like, I kidnap a woman in Virginia and drive her to West Virginia and then rape her, there are rules for incapacitation and everything on that. But that's, again, different story. That's a different area of conversation. Guys, you don't get to subjectively determine that you were incapacitated because you had a couple of drinks. That is not incapacitation. Any capacity I've ever seen. Incapacitation ranges from everything from being blacked out to being unable to offer coherent consent or consent in which could be properly understood as consent. And you cannot either grumble, grunt, or otherwise give him physical cue. Yes, you want to have sex. That is incapacitation in some states, but not all. I know certain states have some very harsh rules on incapacitation, but I'd have to look up North Carolina's. I don't know what ours are here, but I know that we have a pretty good set of them, and they're very clear cut. You don't get to subjectively say, well, I was incapacitated. There's an objective truth to what incapacitation means. It is all set forth by the justice system. This is why schools should not be involved in justice environments. They do not get to tell me, you, or anyone else, well, it's I think that's rape because I think she was incapacitated. Well, if you had any solid evidentiary basis for what incapacitation was, and this goes to my third point, by the way. You do not get to subjectively determine whether or not you want to have the ability to gather evidence and have it used against you when you present a case. Objective moral truth says that if you make a claim such as rape or sexual assault, the person you are accusing should have access to every drop of evidence against him, whether it be a blood test, a BAC test, a rape kit, or text message. You are not entitled to subjectively decide that something is not valuable to an investigation because you know it proves that you were not raped, or proves that you enjoyed the sex, or proves that you were happy about the sex. You do not get to decide that men subjectively decide, particularly men get screwed by this, by the way, subjectively decide that a young man's life should be ruined because you had regretful sex. This is a huge reason why my comment to the Department of Education during the notice and comment period stated that while I was happy with the changes they were making, I wish they would institute a change that requires all schools to report all sexual assaults to the authorities. End of story. And yes, I know I can get blasted by people saying, well, you just want people to stop reporting sexual assault. Not at all. Let me tell you how many of these sexual assault claims would last through the justice system. Very, very few. I bet you less than 10% of them. Because I'm going to tell you what would happen. Most of them would go to a prosecutor who would laugh at them. If it wasn't so serious, he would laugh at them. Because it's ludicrous on its face to have a person saying, I was raped because I got force kissed. That is not rape. I was raped because I had sex and waited 6 months to decide it was rape. That is not rape. There's a reason that there's a statute of limitations on almost all crimes, murder being an exception. And some crimes, sexual assault typically has a pretty long statute of limitations, typically around 15 years. Some cases, I think with like Bill Cosby, I think some of the crimes they charged him with were 20-year statute of limitations, 20, 25 years. So to say that there's long periods on that, there is. But there's a reason there's statute of limitations, and there's reasons. One of the biggest reasons for that is that you do not subjectively get to decide 2, 3, 5, 15 years after it happens, or if you're Christine Blasey Ford, 30 years after it happened, that you were raped. You do not get to decide that. You do not get to decide to run people's lives evidence-free. Because there's an objective morality to this whole situation that is ignored by these people who say, well, these people shouldn't really, the accused shouldn't be given a presumption of innocence. Yes, they should. Which brings me to the fourth point. Due process is not subjective. Let me rephrase. Let me restate. Due process is not subjective. You do not get to subjectively say this right applies, this right doesn't, because our human rights are God-given rights, or creator-bound rights, natural rights, however you want to phrase it. They phrase it in the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and in the Bill of Rights as rights granted by our Creator. Okay, so they believe they came from God, or a God-like being, somebody who created us. And let me tell you something. Like it or not, women who accuse men of rape do not get to subjectively accuse men of rape and then subjectively decide that certain rights don't apply to those men because they know that if those rights apply, the case will fall apart. It is bullcrap. Bat crap crazy. And that's being polite about it, guys. You don't get to tell me that as a man, I should have to give up my right to cross-examination, my right to see my accuser. I should have the right to have my accuser have to be present at the hearings. All of these things are important. They're vital to the discovery of truth. They live in the subjective world. How nine idiots live in a subjective world that say, well, these boys they're accused and they're already guilty. Why do we really need a process? Because that's why there's a process. There's a reason a lot of these girls don't run to the police, because they know that if they went through the process, very much like that kid up there in where was it? Jesus Christ, Yale, I believe it was. Harvard or Yale? I think it's Yale. I keep forgetting where the Afghani exchange student. He's over here from Afghanistan, trying to become a doctor. Gets accused of rape. They send it through the justice system. It took them no time. It took them like 2 hours or less to turn around and roll him not guilty in the criminal justice system. Yet Yale is doing everything in their power to fucking expel him. He's getting ready to sue Yale, by the way. And he's going to win again. You know why? Because all he has to do in that case is present to the presiding judge. This is the finding of a court of law. And they're claiming that the court of law didn't know what they were talking about. Because subjectively, they don't believe in cross-examination. They don't believe in evidentiary standards. They don't believe in any of that. Subjective reality. They live in this world where their feelings override the reality of what's right and wrong. Okay, the last thing that they want to do, and this is a huge part of this, and it's a big thing, they do not want people to be able to confront the stories that they're telling, because if they can confront the people that they're talking bad about, or they can be confronted, those people will be able to expose the lies and misinformation, because those people will belie the mask that they wear. Women are not oppressed on college campuses in America. Get used to it. Let me tell you something. I'm going to say that again because I think it's important, and this is another video I intend to do. Women are not oppressed on college campuses. Okay? In fact, they represent 57% of the American college student body. Okay? Get over it. There are literally right now, there are I'm trying to do the math again. There's 1.7 females for every male graduating and undergraduate. And it gets worse as you go up the chain, by the way. In master's programs, it's like 2.2. And in doctorate programs, it goes up to like 2.8. I'm trying to remember these numbers offhand. I'm not pulling them up on the internet right now. I'd have to do that later. But those numbers are pretty close. And basically, by the time you get to your doctorate programs, there's about 3 women to every male student. Women are not oppressed. Women are not victims. They are not the victims of Title IX. They are not the victims of mass rape gangs. They are not the victims of the Duke lacrosse team. They are not victims of Paul Nungesser. They are not the victims of a UVA fraternity that had to sue to get its name back. Okay? They are not victims. They are not oppressed. They're not part of this mass conspiracy to keep them down. What they are, the majority of feminists on campus are liars, manipulators, and power-hungry mad people. They're egotistical lunatics who know that the fastest way to power is by turning the table on oppression and using the power of government and enforcing the power of government down on the people they hope to oppress. If you don't buy that, guys, I'll do a whole video on how feminism is a poison. It is a poison, guys. It's cancer. There is nothing good coming out of modern feminism. Look at Brie Larson. The woman's a freaking nut. She's a nut job. Like, put her in a hospital. She needs help, kind of crazy. And that's what you get when you have women. And what they don't want to do in Title IX hearings is they want their subjective feelings to be heard by these campus tribunals, which they're not tribunals. They're Kafka-esque star chambers. And I'm being polite about that. These are people that have made a conscious decision to use cultural and political power to avoid reality. Because if the mask is pulled off, in college in particular, it falls off everywhere else. Guys, keep this in mind. Politics is downstream of culture, and there's nowhere that's considered more culturally relevant than college. Not right now. A couple of people like Wendy Murphy who are bat crap crazy Don't you ever forget that one of the women that wrote the textbook on feminist law, name is Catherine McKinnon. You can look this up. Her and Andrea Dworkin were good friends till Andrea Dworkin, God, I hate that last name. It's such a hard name to say sometimes, finally did the greatest favor to mankind and kicked a bucket because she was a sexist, misandric pile of feces. I'm telling you right now, look the woman up. She has said some of the most bat crap crazy things you'll ever hear, up to and including the line that all sex is rape because men hold all the power. She literally said that women should avoid marriage because even sex in marriage is rape. This is not the ravings of a sane person. These are the people trying to prevent Title IX changes. Let's keep that straight, guys. As far as I'm concerned, that's why there has to be an objective reality added into the conversation. And I'm very thankful that Betsy DeVos listened to the right people. Because had she not, we would have been continuing down this slippery slope of nonsensical bullshit that was going on. And we were in a lot of danger. But anyways, guys, like I said, this is the first video. I'm going to hopefully start getting these done about once a week. I would love to start doing them once a week. Like I said, I'm going to do some videos on some pretty hot topics. Hopefully I can get some viewers going. If not, oh well, it'll be cathartic for me and I'll be able to really get out some of my thoughts, and that'd be great. Either way, guys, hopefully we'll see you guys again.